nonchalance, taking culture apart one episode at a time. A social commentary podcast on pop culture, fashion, film, and music.
What are you doing?
I'm taking a second to imagine one particular person on the other end of this podcast that I'm reaching through and trying to speak to this person directly. You think it'll work?
I don't know. You can make it happen, I guess. If you imagine.
We just saw, what is it called? Won't You Be My Neighbor? The Mr. Rogers movie. And I liked that part when he was talking about that, because sometimes when we're doing this podcast, it's kind of challenging to think of the audience who might be listening on the other side. Do you agree or not really?
Honestly, I don't think of anybody. That's probably bad. I don't think
you don't think of anybody at all? Oh.
No, I'm sure somebody maybe does, but I don't think of anybody listening. I'm just focusing on talking about what we're going to talk about and being as natural as possible.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I try to be natural too, but part of that is the realization that this is going like
it doesn't
online.
Compute. Is that what it is?
Yeah. So it's Valentine's Day weekend. Hopefully.
Is it? No. We're still during the week, right?
Isn't today Friday? Yeah.
Yeah, but
so that makes
Valentine's Day, I guess. Yeah, technically.
Then it is.
No, once it's over, you cancel it and you run far, far, far away from it.
I don't agree. I think that it could be built into and should be preserved as much as possible. Not as much as possible, but it doesn't have to be run from as soon as it's done.
I don't know. Somebody got brainwashed by Mr. Rogers.
No, I mean, honestly, I can relate to that desire to monitor how you respond to the onslaught of feelings that you just go through all the time. And I mean, it makes him very contemplative, I guess, makes him very calm. But at the same time, it's to be the celebrity that he was very down to earth. Or at least that's the impression that you get from this movie. But I tend to believe that take on it because you just hear the same description of him from one person to the next, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I like the movie. I don't know anything about Mr. Rogers. I've never really seen the show, I just know he wears a red sweater as far as Mr. Rogers has gone, and I think I only heard about Mr. Rogers maybe when I was 18 or 19, and not in a very deep way.
Right. When did his show... I don't even know when his show stopped airing. But there were clips of him on Arsenio Hall, which, I mean...
I'm not sure what that is.
Oh, that was...
Is that like a talk show?
That was the talk show where he was trying on the leather jacket.
Oh,
and,
okay.
That was a good example of how he just kind of transcended boundaries. But, yeah, I don't know when the show stopped airing. I mean,
Tom Hanks did a really good job, but... at the beginning of the movie, I was just getting anxiety.
Oh, you...
Just because...
Why?
He was talking so calmly and so slow, and it was just doing the show, and...
Yeah.
Part of me is like that reporter where it's like, okay, where's the real person? Because that's a character, right?
Right.
And, I know that part of it was let's recreate the show or whatever the atmosphere was like, and...
Right.
He was talking... It was like he was talking to children the way he was talking, and I'm not a child.
So anymore, you felt like it was patronizing?
I was just no, not patronizing, but it was too calm and too really uncomfortable. I just wanted him to get into, whenever he showed the picture of him beat up, I was like, oh, okay. And then for a few minutes we saw some backstory there, and then it went back to him talking really calmly and just it got out of that, and it got like better,
right,
as far as that uncomfortableness feeling was.
Yeah,
it was just at the beginning, it was just like putting a feather on a scale, and very calmly, just single file, everybody breathe, count your breaths, just all of that was really gentle, and I'm not...
It's not today. It's not the experience of life, like, as we know it. It doesn't seem like it.
No, and maybe some of it should be, but it was just, it's kind of like, okay, you snap out of it, like...
Right. I
don't know.
Yeah, I was watching it and I was thinking about how much of the general feeling about Tom Hanks gets built into this performance, because Tom Hanks almost has that same kind of pop culture personality. He's not as calm. He's not a minister or anything like that, but people tend to love him. He comes across as very easygoing, mildly humorous, like probably the least offensive actor that you ever see sitting on like the Graham Norton show or anything like that. I mean, he's almost like a modern day Mr. Rogers. But Tom Hanks is kind of like eclipsed Mr. Rogers in terms of like celebrity and regard and like longevity. I mean, people probably feel more that way towards Tom Hanks today than they do about Mr. Rogers.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's such a different target. The target that Mr. Rogers was going for, and the level of fame and what he thought of fame, as far as I know from the movie, it just was not what Hollywood star Tom Hanks ever did or went out after. So, yeah, I mean, he is like the modern day Mr. Rogers, but not in the same way that Mr. Rogers was just talking to children and explaining difficult things in a very calm way.
I mean, no, definitely like what they did in front of the camera is very different. But for me, there was no separating Tom Hanks out of that portrayal of Mr. Rogers. In fact, there's that scene in the diner or the Chinese food place when Mr. Rogers, Tom Hanks, is saying, for a moment, just consider all the people who loved you into being. And then he looks directly in the camera. And the camera just keeps going for a good minute. Everything in the restaurant stops. We're sitting in the theater and we're all watching Tom Hanks
he was
play.
Watching us. That was creepy.
And he was like, here, I mean, this is for you, the audience. Think for a whole minute about the people who have loved you into being. And I mean, I thought about it. But, I tend to think about those kinds of things a lot. But
I didn't. I was
creeped
out.
You have no soul. I'm the one who's supposed to have no soul, but you have like no soul. No. So what do you make of the movie? Do you think it deserves the praise that it's gotten?
It makes me want to find out more. It makes me want to read the article and how much they got right, wrong, how much of it is real. I want to find out about this writer, and I want to watch Won't You Be My Neighbor, the documentary with the real guy, and just some of that.
Right.
It makes me want to find out more, basically.
Yeah. We talked about a bit about new journalism and the journalists inserting themselves into the writing, and how that particular magazine is known for advancing that kind of journalism. So I bet you, I mean, if the movie messed that up at all, it's not because they didn't get a sense of the journalist and the journalist story and how he intermingled with Mr. Rogers. So yeah, it'd be interesting to go back and read it and compare.
It's weird that you have this idea of what Esquire is.
Right.
And I've never had that idea because I've never read an Esquire.
I mean, honestly, I don't know how many people actually think of like new journalism in Esquire.
No, I mean, the only thing Esquire that I've ever thought of are the editorials, and it's a man's magazine, and just that kind of like a more a nicer Maxim, a grown-up Maxim magazine, basically, and
a more polished aesthetic, almost like a GQ.
Where did that message kind of like not stop coming through? Because you had an idea of this is what the journalists for that magazine do,
right?
Or was it? Did you have that, or was it just like, oh well, the movie showed that, so it must be true?
Well, no, I mean, I just had a general knowledge. I'm not an expert in that at all. I don't know much about it at all. I just know some of the terminology and what it means. And then I knew that Esquire was. There might be tons of publications out there. I just knew that Esquire was one of them. So yeah. So I mean, I kind of knew when I saw the title of the magazine that it makes sense that he writes this 10,000 word article by the end, but it's more about him than necessarily the some removed objective take on like Mr. Rogers. He inserts himself into it. So, I mean, as long as the story's interesting, I guess. As long as it reads well on paper. I liked the movie. I want to see what I can find as far as the soundtrack goes. I mean, we literally just walked home from seeing it, so I haven't had a chance. But I loved how they reconstructed the sets. And that's one of the things that I distinctly remember about the Mr. Rogers show. I didn't watch it for very long. I certainly didn't watch it up until like the end when it went off the air. But I really liked how they reconstructed the sets and then expanded it into like a city in New York. And you even see like some of the darker scenes playing out on this like model set. So anyway.
Yeah, it was interesting.
What else have you been watching? We've been watching Bojack. We're just in the middle of season 5 right now.
Yeah, the last season has come out that it's been that show where we kind of left it for a bit because we don't want it to end.
We relish it. We just make it last.
We might leave that last season for a while because it is the last.
Yeah.
And the show, I mean, finishing up season 5, every episode has been really crazy good.
I really like how they experiment with the format and like what they do with the story of what they tell through each episode.
People are missing out if they're not watching Bojack.
Yeah, I mean, Bojack is it's really good. It's not, I mean, it's a cartoon, but it's definitely not family friendly. You're not going to want to sit around and watch this with your kids or with your parents or whatever.
Maybe you should. I mean, it explores some tough stuff, but it's kind of like Avatar: The Last Airbender. They explore some tough stuff, but it's a show that's actually a really good storyteller.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on, the family and the relationship.
Yeah, of course.
If you're comfortable sitting around with your mom and the main cartoon horse is like swallowing bottles of pills and hallucinating his way through like his messed up life as, wrecking his professional...
You're going to encounter it somewhere. You might as well encounter it on the TV.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think they did a really good job. And again, it just depends on the relationship you have with your family and, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Show.
We started watching, what's it called? Next Fashion?
Next in Fashion.
Next in Fashion.
Tan France and...
Alexa Chung.
Yes.
And I didn't think I was going to like it very much, but I kind of missed the reality competition kick. Like in the middle of the day, it's kind of brainless, but it ended up being better than I thought. What do you think? We haven't finished it.
Yeah, it's very like Project Runway, except it has a few changes here and there.
I think the designers might be better than what you see on Project Runway.
Yeah, they get more money at the end, and the designers are more established somewhat. They have better backgrounds than I just graduated and I'm trying things.
Right.
And I mean, Project Runway, the current season has turned into whatever I'm out. Because Heidi and Tim are out and they're starting their own fashion, this arena show. And I think maybe theirs will be better. It's going to be on Amazon. But I mean, it's fine. I am like watching and I like having something that's brainless.
I mean, it is pretty brainless. We're not talking about like heavy stuff. But at the same time, it does. They're always racing against the clock. They're always trying to get too much done, and I just feel like that all the time now with my project.
It's anxiety-inducing sometimes, and it's
nice to see other people going through that.
Like, come on, it's editing. Because I mean, I know I don't like that they have so little time to do so much.
Right.
And I know that they don't pay attention to all the small things, because if they did, then they would rip them a new one. And the designers, it's a day and a half is not enough time to make anything. And I mean, they're really testing these people. This is definitely not easy.
So wait, are you saying that what we're seeing is not really what's happening?
No, I mean, I'm sure, but the way they edit the last rush,
right?
5 minutes to the runway, 3 minutes, and somebody doesn't have a pan leg or whatever. Like,
right.
I think that the dramatization of it is edited in that way so that you can really get into the rush of things. Because I don't know.
Do you think that's?
I'm very untrustful of how things are edited to make me feel things now.
Right. No, I mean, that makes sense. Do you think that rush and the rush against the clock and the anxiety that comes from that is a common feeling today?
Well, yeah, everybody has it every day in everything that they do. It just depends on what you decide to have that rush in. Is it going to be on, somebody paying you to have a job that you hate, but it has that rush? Or are you going to get something fulfilling out of that rush that you're going to enjoy doing, but maybe it's not going to pay as much? I don't know. But everybody's always on that rush. I
was just wondering about that as we were watching the show today. I was like, how many people are actually fighting against the clock like that to that extent? I shouldn't say everybody. There are some lazy people in the world that don't do anything. But I guess if you just look at the thing that they have in front of them through that rush lens, it's all dependent on the person and how they see what their rush is. And if they feel the same way, it can't be discounted, I guess. I'm definitely feeling that in regard to my project.
It's always a rush with your project. It's not a rush though. It's always on. It's always.
But there's not always the sense of the anxiety. Like, okay, the deadline's coming up, and this needs to come together, and that needs to come together, and.
But nobody. That's the thing. Nobody puts that on you except yourself. And yeah, I know you're supposed to. And I wish I was like that. And probably a lot more people wish they were like that. But it's also not good.
But in the meantime, I've been sitting and writing and pulling together what's essentially a year's worth of notes. So, yeah. One of the things, though, that we've been able to do twice now, or is it 3 times?
It's 3 times.
3 times we've been to Madame X. It's starting to blur. One time we had...
Yeah,
we went to the first night. What ended up being the first night after she canceled and
Madonna.
We scrambled.
We haven't said Madonna.
Madame X. I just said Madame X.
No, I know, but if somebody's listening and they don't know what Madame X is...
Okay. I guess that's true.
I guess it's going to be on the episode title, so whatever, Rick, shut up.
No, I'm talking to the person in my mind on the other end of the podcast who at least knows what Madame X is. But okay. But your person in your mind may not know, so it's good that you're considering them too. Thank you for that consideration.
Whatever, Mr. Rogers.
Hey, my therapist did that too. But she wasn't as subdued as Mr. Rogers.
You exist, whatever.
Yeah,
okay.
So
I know.
There was once this celebrity. She was a pop star. Her name was Madonna, and she had a very controversial rise to fame.
Yeah,
and one day she came to London and she set up a show within about 5 minutes walk from our house.
No,
and it proved too tempting to just go more than once or twice.
We only had tickets for 2 nights.
Yeah.
She canceled one of the nights. And so that same day we got tickets for the next night, which was then the first night. So we saw the full show that first night.
Yeah.
She performed the full show.
Right.
That first night.
Because she's injured, so she has to come back. I really
wanted to make sure that we saw that first show because she had a small break before the last city. And I knew, okay, it was kind of like touch and go for a bit whether she was going to show up or not. But she did say, I'm going to show for that night. So we tried really hard to get tickets for that first night, and we did. And she performed the full show. She didn't cut any songs.
Right.
And what did you... And so then we saw two others with...
From the box, the Royal Box.
Yeah, the Royal
Which
Box.
was an amazing experience the first time, so we had to go back and do it again. And... Spoiled.
Bad. But it's such a good view, and you have your own box. No people behind you, because one of the things we did not like, or at least I didn't like from seeing it from the Royal... the Royal section, not
the box, but up there in the balconies.
The Royal Circle, yeah.
Right.
I did not like having rows in front of me where people were just getting up.
We're used to seeing Madonna from the front row.
Yeah, I mean, if we ever go to a Madonna show, front row, and it's stadium.
We've held her hand, we've sang into a microphone. And I mean, we just had a lot of interactions with Madonna.
That, you don't have to worry about anybody that's behind you. Like, whatever.
So that's how we're used to seeing it. And seeing the show from up there in the balcony for this first time, we were like, okay, this is different for us, but at least we're getting to see it on this night.
Yeah, because, I mean, it is the London Palladium. It's a very small theater. She's never done venues like this. So really, most any seat in the house is going to be a good
It was not a bad seat. It was just... Okay, we should start from the top, though, because that was just, as we sat down, we were like, okay, this is different. We're a little further back from the stage than we're used to, but at least we get to see it, right?
Yeah.
And so, because it's London, she pretty much starts on time. But we don't have our phones or our watches, so we don't really know what time she's starting. But it didn't feel like we were waiting forever. The opening act, the jazz band was really good. I loved this. One of my most favorite Madonna opening acts of all time. It's Portuguese jazz. I like a Portuguese jazz band, right?
Yeah, Fado.
Because
Fado.
Because the Fado singer that she features later on in the show, he's there. He's there. He's performing. He doesn't really sing though, does he? He's playing an instrument.
He's playing the little guitar. I don't know the name of it.
Right.
But that's the duet, Dino de Santiago.
Dino de Santiago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he shows up later in the concert. In fact, all of the people from this opening jazz band are in the show. And they're just a really talented group. And I loved being in the theater.
It's a very theater way to,
Yeah, they just come out down the aisle and they sit at the edge of the stage and they just start playing.
And it's so non-stress. Like, we just walked through the show. There's no queues. We walked in, got some merchandise, but even that was really well organized. Queue. Our phones were put away, so no stress on taking any photos of anything. Just, enjoy the show and enjoy the band that's playing before the show. So it's really stress-free, calm, perfect. Yeah, so far, I mean, in terms of the pre-show stuff and what you have to do to get into the venue, this was just so easy. And I wouldn't mind if she did this type of theater show just from now on. I mean, it was just, I am really spoiled between that part of it, the intimacy of the theater, the box seating that we got. It's just, that's how I want to see Madonna, like, from now on. If she's listening to me and she's taking my advice, right, if my preferences matter at all. Probably going to do it from a floating stage next, and you have to look up and see the show that way.
Oh, so. Kind of like Reinvention Tour.
Yeah, I never saw that one.
Oh, okay.
But
so the show starts. I mean, you hear Madonna, first of all, come over the loudspeaker saying, "No phones. I appreciate this. I want you to be present." And it was like, okay, so Madonna's playing like the usher role or whatever. It's like, but that was different for a Madonna show, because usually you don't see or hear Madonna until the music is going and the stage is set. But this time she's like before you get seated, I'm glad you don't have your phones because you're going to be here and you're going to be in the moment. Which, I have to say, really made for a good night. I didn't mind losing technology at all. Really.
Yeah, it was good, and she brings it up throughout the show. Saying it's an intervention. She misses seeing the phones out there taking pictures of her, but also she does not want any phones, and I'm glad for it.
Yeah. So the James Baldwin quotes come up. You see kind of like the silhouette, the projections of someone sitting at the typewriter. It touches on what we saw in the God Control video, but she starts typing out this quote, untyping the quote, typing it again. And all along, you have a dancer dancing to the beat of the typewriter. And the gist of the quote is, artists disturb the peace. And that everyone is injured, and you can't shut that off, but you can use that to connect with other people who are alive.
I know that you said it was kind of
Maddening.
Maddening.
Because it goes on for a while.
It gets redone like 4 times. And the typewriter, like, I love the typewriter sounds, but yeah, it's...
I mean, because the typewriter pops up a lot throughout the show, and it's never as repetitive as it is in the very beginning.
It's a good way to start the show.
It's very different. I mean, a Madonna show doesn't usually start with like that much repetition. Usually, like, the floor is vibrating as the lights come on and the video is projecting, and you're in the middle of this environment, this atmosphere. But this is different. It's very much, this is on the stage, you're sitting in the audience, here's a silhouette of somebody doing something, and they're typing, and you're following these words, go across the screen, delete, go across the screen, delete.
So what did you think about the first, I guess you could say the first part, which is God Control, Dark Ballet, Human Nature, and Express Yourself? And only because she was wearing the same outfit,
right?
Do I say it's a part, mostly the same outfit?
Well, I would say it's a part because she cuts up, I mean, for the second version of the show, she cut all that out. So that's kind of like a part. And I loved seeing God Control. I thought it was a great way. It's not how I would expect the show to start.
It's a good start.
Yeah, I thought Medellin would be kind of like launching the mood of the show. But God Control was like, okay, it's in your face, it's energetic, and Dark Ballet is one of my favorite songs from the Madame X album.
I like the imagery going on behind her throughout all of these, or anyone that she did the music video for.
Right.
They use it really well. In
the imagery and the structure of the set itself, they go really well together.
The set is so good because it can just become so many things.
Yeah, and it was very West End like that. It wasn't like the typical Madonna arena, like mechanical superstructures that are shifting her around and all this stuff. This was like more like props.
Because they had to think of how they're going to transport this and how it's going to fit in a small theater.
Yeah. So, I mean, it felt like a theater show, but it had like all the digital projection and everything that Madonna could so well take advantage of. She exploited that really well. So you have 2 new songs that are like right off the bat. That's how she starts the show. But then she gets into Human Nature, and she goes into like part of the set. It's like this circle, and she's doing this choreography to it.
I was like, don't do it, Madonna.
Well, because we know that she's hurt. We know that she's injured.
Get the hell out of there. And then she's bending herself backwards in that wheel, and I was just thinking, don't spin her, because you can tell that the thing spins. I was like, is she gonna spin in this thing? She did her thing, and she got out of it, and thankfully she did not go back in there because...
But, yeah, as much as I loved the first 2 songs...
Cool. It looked really cool, but...
Yeah.
I'm just like, don't hurt yourself.
Right. But when Human Nature came on, that was like a jolt. Like, I loved that moment when Human Nature came on. I really loved the first 2 songs. Those are some of my favorite from the album. But then she connects it with Human Nature, which is like, it's not exactly a classic Madonna song, but it's been around for a long time.
Yeah, and it's just a really good, like, fuck you message, the attitude.
It works really well. after that. Because, God control, gun control, and then dark ballet and the religious people preying on the weak rather than helping the weak and that kind of political message. Then you have this human nature bite back. It was nice. But then the familiarity of the song too was nice. And for us, Express Yourself was more like when she brought her daughter
I don't
out onto
know
the stage.
that she's saying so much of that, but
She didn't really.
It was her daughter's being out on
Mercy?
stage.
Is it
Mercy and Mercy James and the two girls.
Yeah, there were two girls. It was one of the birthdays.
Stella is one of them, and I can't remember the others.
Yeah, so it was kind of a mix between a birthday message and Express Yourself. She presented Express Yourself like, this is a message that I tell my girls, this is the best birthday I could give them. Best birthday gift I could give them.
It's nice that she talks quite a bit. She tells a bit of stories.
Yeah.
When she doesn't cut that part. And then the interlude happens where you start seeing more, this is Madame X, she's A, B, C, D, E.
Yeah.
And Madame X doesn't take shit. But I can't remember, did that interlude happen and then you see her changing behind the boudoir thingy?
No. The boudoir thing happens after she sings Human Nature.
Okay.
No, she ends up on her knees. They bring a chair and then
the girls with the trench coats.
They come and they put her behind the mirror.
That was one of my favorite parts.
Where she's talking.
The whole show. She's just
from behind the mirror with her legs spread open.
It's like a stand-up show, and I was just thought, this is so different because she'll go down under the stage or to the back to change, and the dancers will do a number, right? There was less of that more of her. I mean, that, again, you can see her, they're putting the heels on and all of it. It's just, that was one of my favorite parts.
I know.
I hope we get to see it again, but
I hope we do get to, and it will be on the DVD eventually that comes out.
Yeah.
But so she kind of changes right there in front of us, but she's hiding behind a mirror talking. So it's kind of like an avant-garde stand-up act because she's making jokes and she's talking, but then you can't see her face. But when she finally emerges, she's ready for Vogue, and it's this very film
really
noir.
Fun.
Film noir look, trench coats and shadows and
the
it's in the city.
All of it. It's so cool. And I only noticed on the third show that some of the trench coat girls are guys in the wigs. And not just that. There's more details that you see every time. And I really enjoyed that part. And I enjoyed how the Vogue goes into I Don't Search, I Find, because it's even the amplified film noir when they take her and they're typing in the typewriter.
It makes another appearance. Yeah.
Yeah, and the light bulb is going. It's like a jolt.
It reminded me of The Secret Project.
Oh my god, this looks so cool.
She starts getting into that Secret Project kind of feel where you're seeing something that's staged. I mean, because Secret Project was all about what was happening on the stage. But there's violence against her. And, authorities coming down on her. She's getting investigated and probed and pushed and pulled. Yeah. And so she gets into the...
And I just like how they do small different things to every show, because the last time we saw it, some of the dancers were taking Polaroids of themselves and throwing them out to the audience. They didn't do that the first two shows we saw it. So there's always slight differences.
Yeah.
Of course, anytime she talks, that will change depending on her mood, which I love because we got to get some really bitchy Madonna.
Right.
The last time we saw her,
because they had closed the curtain on her the night before. That safety curtain that comes down. If you've ever been to the Palladium or a lot of the theaters in the West End, have that kind of curtain.
They have a curfew.
There's a curfew.
I mean, this one they can actually really enforce with an iron curtain. It's the fire curtain basically. If the theater's on fire in the back, it protects the rest of the theater.
So she kind of responded on our night to what happened the night before, and she was kind of
really pissed,
a sassy, rebellious kind of
bitchy, nice,
which was fun because she pulls us into that, and she kind of dramatizes that. And yeah. So
Then she does the selfie.
yeah,
the
she auctions off for charity the Malawi selfie. Well, she does that Polaroid and she sells it off to the highest bidder in the audience. That was really different. I mean, I liked it, but I think Madonna is like in this show making it a point of being really human. And like, I'm flesh and blood. I'm not like the arena Madonna that you're never going to even like see that I have pores. You're like, you can see her breathe, and she stops and she relaxes and she like,
because she barely talks. You wait for the time when she says, "I love you, fill in the blank city," or you know, just it's very small when she has
in the other tours. It's usually like that,
where her actual speaking has come out, other than thank you or you know. So you're just hanging on to every word, and it is very. She's very real and very personal, and she's like, "Come on, I love more money," and it's not for her; it's for the charity. But that's just another part of the intimacy of the show.
So yeah, and I mean, we have some friends who are like, "Oh, like we got to interact with Madonna in this one," and I'm like, "Yeah, I mean." She makes it a point of being like, okay, I'm a real person. That's one of my favorite. I think I've said this before. Like, that's what I really like about going to see a play or a musical in the West End, especially when the big names are there, because then you get to see the humanity that goes into the acting performance that you don't necessarily get to see firsthand when when they're in a movie or like on a film or on a screen. It's like, no, they're really there, and you get to see the breathing, and you get to like. You're in the same room. They know you're in the same room, and there's like this magic going on. And Madonna, I think she really does a good job of making use of that. I mean, it doesn't take the form of like a real play or like a real musical, and I don't even think the Madame X part tells like any kind of real story. But I mean, she presents a character, but I'm not sure how much narrative there is around that character.
Yeah, and then we have American Life.
Right.
Which is good.
I mean, like she connects that with the politics of what's going on in the States right now.
And I just love the rap and the fuck it and just all of that. It's a really good lead into Batuka, which is it starts going into. I mean, at the end, all the soldiers die, and then the coffin walks in, and there's an interlude where the dancer leads to Cape Verde, which is where the slave trade began, and then the women from I don't know, they're an
orchestra.
They're an orchestra from Cape Verde, and they come in through the aisles, and I really like that. It's like I really
like that, and the show I think really warms up at that point because Madonna, you can tell she has a real affinity for these women, and there's just a real warmth that develops,
and there's so much life that comes in at that point, and it's like, okay, here's another injection of life, and even with the suffering that is connected at the beginning, there's the thing that supersedes that, because she talks about how the drums were taken from them because it was, you know, the fact that they exist was an act of rebellion against what was going on.
And the very fact that they existed and the drums were a part of that rebellion. But the sound that comes out of this circle that they make on the stage, it's totally envelops you. And I mean, you really feel a part of it. And I mean, that's one of the most magical moments of the night, I think, is that opportunity to become like a part of that and to actually be affected by the music because it's being played in the room by these people.
Yeah, and I like that they were there physically because they were there for the music video. But I like that they show up in 2 different songs in the show, and both times. It's just really cool.
Yeah, I mean, when you hear like a choir backing Madonna on an album, it's like it's very open to interpretation. How much they're just a prop, or how much they're just a part of the sound, the aesthetic of the song, or whatever. But when she brings it live on stage, then you can see how enmeshed she is and what it is that they're doing, and how meaningful and how like dimensional it is. It's not just a prop sound that she uses to get, you know, an album sold.
Yeah, and she's in there. She gets in the chair and she lets them have the stage, basically.
She does that a lot throughout the show. Now that you mentioned that, she's not afraid to let other people shine. Mm-hmm. She's not afraid to let the dancers dance and impress you. She's not afraid to bring out musicians who have skills that she clearly doesn't have. But she's, you know, for the reputation that she has for being an egotist, she's not afraid of letting people shine. Even when she's sharing the stage with them, like she got submerged into the performance of this orchestra. She was a part of it, but she didn't dominate it. The next section.
Yeah, so then it goes into killers who are, well, it has the Gaspar Varela small performance, Fado Pechincha, which is a few seconds, but then it goes into...
where she tries her hand at singing Fado.
Yeah,
and she acknowledges that you have to grow up singing that in order to be able to do it well.
Exactly.
But, I mean, I'm not a Fado expert, so I'm not going to know that she was doing a bad job.
Yeah, she sounded great to me, but this, I think from Batuka, for the next few songs, she has that same outfit, which is, she has a black wig with the blue glinty dress. It's just really nice. It's like a perfect
really
outfit.
Nice look.
And then the stage essentially turns into her Fado club,
which I really like. And that's part of the reason why I like the box seats so much, because it's very chilled. And
it's like you're in her club and there's a balcony and you're just having drinks, watching. She sings the song like saying, "Welcome to my Fado club," and it's just so perfect.
It makes me wish Madonna had a club like that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we're up there with our balcony. We have champagne and that we can just sit around. We have our little snacks that we got from the bar. And, you know, it's very comfortable.
And they got the set so right, because I know a lot of it is projections, but it works so perfectly on those stairs. And that's one thing. There's a lot of stairs. And I'm just... You know, I wonder if Madonna...
Like the Escher drawings. We keep making the jokes that they're like an Escher drawing.
There's a lot of stairs, Madonna, and she's
upside down, circular, like all over the place.
I mean, you see the dancers are helpful, like with their hands and all that.
Because you've said that you haven't noticed that she winces sometimes when she's like getting up off the floor or when she cries. And... yeah, I mean, she does, but she openly talks about being injured. So
yeah, she does.
She's not exactly trying to hide it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want her to be in pain.
No.
I haven't exactly paid that much attention to notice a wince. But you were so close to her, you can see
that she is wincing
and everything. And I mean, she even looked up and gave you a glance and a smile. So.
She did. Like that, the first night we had the box seats, she was doing one of the songs on top of the piano, and it's like she's up on the piano, we're sitting up in the balcony, and for like a good 2 seconds, like she's looking at me and she just like starts smiling as the song ends. And I'm like, oh, I got like a Madonna moment. And I know people always say those kinds of things. And we've had more interaction with her than that. But I mean, to her, it's nothing, but it really made like for a nice moment.
You're right there.
Right.
You're right there in front of her. Like she looks up, she's going to see you, and it's two people.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
But it was the sweetest smile, I'm telling you. Like,
I think she's
genuinely warm. It was a very sweet smile. And her eyes were just twinkling.
And she likes looking out into the audience and seeing people's faces. She mentions it.
Makes a comment on that.
So I don't think you should discount it that she had a moment like that.
Yeah,
with you, because she does, and she talks about
it
having
was
those
really
moments.
nice.
And I just, through this whole section, which includes crazy killers who are partying, Saudade, Medellin. I love Medellin because she walks up to the typewriter and she starts typing, and the typing turns into
the percussion,
the intro to Medellin, which is just like, let's get up and dance. Which there's
like,
a lot
take that, Dolly Parton.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, Dolly, wear your nails, like, you know, because she said she used her nails to do the 9 to 5.
Right.
It's so perfect, and I love that introduction, and I like how playful she is, where, you know, she does that spin and she doesn't get it right, so she's like, let me try again, I'm drunk, you know, moments like that.
Yeah.
Where she's kind of,
it's refreshing and it's playful, and she's able to be spontaneous as long as she's not feeling too rushed.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
even she plays around with that too.
Even that is like, I gotta hurry up. I got an iron curtain, you know, like, fuck. All of that. And even the last time we saw her, during this part, she just kept saying, shut those fucking doors at the back. Like, why are people getting up? I'm singing my song. Like, this one goes out to those 2 people that just left.
Like, she's gonna notice if you get up and left. I mean, even Madonna, that's how intimate this setting is. Madonna's gonna notice if you get up and leave.
And notice every time those damn doors open at the back. So, I mean, it's like I said, we were noticing too many people talking or whatever. It's like, Madonna's on stage, full attention, shut up everybody. Or like, you know, when the occasion comes, dance. But it's just, it is what it is. Everybody noticed everything, and Madonna was kind of in a bitchy mood already because of the Iron Curtain. So it was like, fuck it. Which, even that on its own is just like...
But she wasn't harsh. She was sassy and playful about it.
No, sassy. Yeah, exactly. And that's... I mean, I like this whole section. And then it goes into... Extreme Occident ends that section, and that's when she's doing some of the dancing. I think because I noticed in her legs and her muscles when she's dancing,
right?
And I guess that's where you could see wincing, but I haven't looked at her face because she still does a lot of dancing.
She's moving a lot.
Yeah,
she's moving a lot throughout the whole show.
She switched out the heels for boots or flats, but she's still like up and down the stairs and dancing around on tables and pianos and around dance. She's not doing the crazy dances with the dancers are doing, but she's really active in it. And
that's been the case for a few tours now, where the dancers are doing really crazy. They're really skilled in like a very specific kind of dance and choreography. And Madonna, she can keep up in her way, but she's not about trying to keep up with what they're doing. She's not trying to dance how they're dancing. And she doesn't have to in this either. I mean, you don't feel it as a loss.
Yeah, and that's one big thing I liked about the show. And then it goes into the Rescue Me interlude, which was really cool because it's
staged stage, very simply, but the choreography
the
is
dancers
really good.
Are crazy during this thing. They're trying to catch their breaths essentially, and I really like that. And that kind of that moment leading to Frozen, like, what did you think about Frozen? Like, because that has a big surprise in it.
Frozen? Okay, I have to say this. I've been to concerts before where the singer has been behind that sheer kind of curtain, the sheer screen before. And it's definitely a feeling of distance when that happens. It's like a veil that comes down. And that was like the first time during the show that Madonna felt away. But it's not long before you get into this dance that this person's doing. She's obviously talented and flexible and very expressive with how she's moving. The choreography is just captivating. Mm-hmm. And it's moving. The movements are reminding me of the Frozen video where Madonna's like in the headdress, like in the big wig, and she's out in the desert and like on the ground. but then you start noticing the tattoos that are on this person dancing, and it's like mercy, and I was like, oh wait, is that after like the idea, or is that after Madonna's daughter? And then you see, and I saw it on the first night. I think I noticed it before you did, that on the hand, on the fingers, there's the word mom, right? And I'm like, okay. And then finally, this person who's been dancing through, this Frozen song lifts her face, and you see that it's Lola, Madonna's daughter.
I mean, it is like she doesn't do most of the song hidden. She does the reveal.
Right.
Within, the first minute?
Right.
But she's like showing the tattoos, and I didn't notice the mom. Every time I see it, I notice something new. It was the second show where I saw the mom thing, and the first show I saw Mercy, and it's like you're seeing new things every time.
Right. I love when she's doing the dance, and then the lyrics are about your heart melting, and then rain comes.
It makes
it's like
so much.
It's really beautiful, like the mother-daughter connection, the choreography, the rain falling.
It's a new meaning to that song. Completely new meaning.
Yeah, which is what Madonna does from tour to tour, but it's beautiful and it's meaningful. It's not just recontextualizing it for the sake of recontextualizing it.
And Lourdes is really talented.
She is.
Like
she's really good.
And simple, like it's right there, laid bare, really talented, and I can imagine Madonna is like really proud.
If there's one thing that Lourdes has maintained, it's a sense of mystery. She hasn't taken to media to publicize every little thing that she does. She's not like always clamoring for attention. She's not always getting the headlines. But when you do hear about her, it's always in connection with something cultural.
Yeah, she seems grounded.
Yeah.
And it really...
She was doing theater for a while.
It works well.
Yeah.
In the show. And once... Because you can kind of see behind the sheer curtain that she has a new look.
Right.
And you really see it once Come Alive starts. Because the curtain goes up and she starts dancing and the women from the orchestra come out. And it's just really joyful. Just all of it. It's just like fun and colorful, and the outfits are glinting, and the dancing.
Kind of, it reminds me, like, after Lourdes was born, Madonna did Ray of Light, which was the very, like, energized happiness, like, mystical, spiritual, and it was like a renewal for Madonna, renewed her career, and got this real emotional, like, burst from her. And the fact that Come Alive and everything follows Lourdes's, like, projected dance, that film, I mean, it's kind of echoing that same thing. It makes it a really touching moment, like more than just a moment, but a really
it's like going to church.
Yeah, no,
in a way, and
I've thought about that multiple times. I mean,
like a prayer.
Yeah,
Talk about going to church.
Yeah,
seriously, like that's masterful, and the whole theater. I think the last time we saw it, I actually looked up to what you would call the nosebleeds, which are still kind of good seats. Everybody in the whole theater was standing up, and like a prayer just lights up. Everybody is taken.
Madonna has taken this to. She's had a come to Jesus revival moment in this. This theater. Good. It's like the whole place is up and moving to the music, and she's like with her choir backing her and everything. I mean, it's not just the performance of a greatest hit that everyone expects.
No, it's always different, because you do get like a prayer most of the time, but it just fits so well with what's come behind and that feeling. And then you hear like a prayer.
It's palpable in the air. Like that feeling is just there. It's not faked. It's there for real. And everyone is participating in it.
Yeah, I love that moment. And it's just, you can't say just enough how good. And the song that comes before it is Future, where she plays the piano and zombie-like people come up.
The Tori Amos kind of moment.
Yeah, and I like the background, and you see the sun because the silhouettes of the dancers are visible and it's kind of distorted.
Yeah.
And it's just, I like that rendition of it, and it's a little bit calmer before you go into the burst of like a prayer. And she does say like, okay, the curtain goes up, down, right, and it's done, you think, but then there's an encore, which is I Rise. And what did you think of I Rise? Because that is how the show ends. It is the last song.
I think it's a really effective ending. I mean, and again, she doesn't disappear behind the stage after it's done. She goes out through the audience, and she goes out through the entrance.
Out the door. Like, bye.
And so, I mean, I think that's like the whole political message of the album, Madame X, is that...
It closes it really well because before I Rise starts, you see the dancer that started the show in the back, and he essentially dies for his art, but it's that same quote, you're here to disturb the peace.
Right.
And sometimes you die for your art, but it's worth it. And then, I rise and the political moments come up, and then the rainbow flag comes down, and the dancers are dressed up in, I think like school uniform looking things. And it's just like, it's really like, where do I go and sign up for this? I'm going to go march for Madonna.
Yeah, I mean, the emotion definitely builds up to that point, and it's been an emotional ride from the beginning up until then. And it's very joyous and it's energizing in a way. And her message is like, don't just sit there, get up and go forth, like with this.
Yeah, you can affect the change that you want to see, and you can get stuck in the feeling of God control where you're kind of like, what the hell? There's guns everywhere, killing people. There's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
And you can be in that despair, and you can be, we talked before, like the character Madonna plays in the video, the signs are all there, but she just wants to party, and she pays for it at the end.
Because there's a difference between the empty party and then the emotion-filled purpose. That there's going to be some sadness, but there's also going to be some joy.
Yeah,
and you bring it together in a real way, and then you carry it out. Okay, our hour is almost up. We should be winding this down. Yeah, we have one more night that we're going to go see with Serena. She's seen it once with us, but we're going to be there for the last night that she's in London. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, we're looking forward to talking to Serena too about what she thinks.
Yeah.
So we'll get more of that.
All right. Well, everyone enjoy what I consider to be your Valentine's Day weekend. Whether, own it. If you don't have a Valentine, make yourself a Valentine, or just, whatever.
Or Galentine.
Okay. All right. Until next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast. We put it out weekly. And follow us on social media. We're on every platform. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We're everywhere.